This podcast is made possible by the County of Sonoma and PG&E. Welcome to our Emergency Preparedness podcast, where you will learn valuable information for the safety of your community. My name is Xochitl Marquez, and I am the Marketing Coordinator for Sonoma Valley Community Health Center. And it is such a pleasure for me to introduce you to Ben Mallet, who is the firefighter EMT. Hi, Ben. How are you doing?
Hi, good. How you doing?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you so much. Ben, so as we know, when a disaster and emergency happens, there are so many organizations that come together and also entities, right, that come together to either remedy or help with that emergency. Mm-hmm. But you guys are like the superheroes of this, because being the frontliners makes your job extremely meaningful. So my questions to you is, can you please just tell us a little bit more about the Sonoma Valley Fire District and who do you serve?
Yeah, of course. So the Sonoma Valley Fire District, we're a fire district covers the area of Sonoma Valley. We cover approximately 50,000 residents to 55,000, depending on how many are here. And it's across about a 74 square mile area that we cover, usually from Napa Road, kind of city of Sonoma, up to Dunbar Road and Glen Ellen. But recently, this last year, we also started offering coverage to Kenwood Fire as well. So that increased our area of coverage by about 34 square miles. So we cover a pretty large area in the valley here. Every day we have about 22 firefighters. They're on duty 24/7, 7 days a week, and we cover about 5 stations across the valley. We have our fully staffed Fire Prevention Bureau that oversees fire safety regulations for businesses and all the multifamily dwellings and apartments and stuff in the valley here. So we cover a lot of different things and do a lot of different stuff. We also provide paramedic level ambulance companies that we have 3 of them in the valley here. They're out of our first 3 stations. And we also have a whole vegetation management office that oversees vegetation compliance and other regulations throughout the district.
Wow, you do a lot.
Yeah, we have a lot of coverage that we do.
And you're also so young. It seems like you have like a big range on ages, right? So let's see. For a person like me, let's say, that knows so little about firefighters, can you explain to me in a very simple way, if there is a disaster or an emergency, what is your role in that disaster or emergency? We can probably use fire since, they're like so common in the area nowadays, unfortunately. What is your role in that? It can either be during the fire or even before the fire or after the fire. What is your role in there?
Yeah, of course. So before the disaster, before the fire, like obviously we had those big 2017 fires that hit us pretty hard at home here a couple years ago. As a district, we prioritize proactive measures and especially reducing the risk of wildfire in the area. We've seen it here a lot, so we want to do everything we can to prevent that from happening again. Our Fire Prevention Bureau conducts regular inspections, so they'll go around the valley. As I said earlier, they go to businesses and big apartment complexes and stuff around here just to make sure that everything is up to code and everything is looking safe and good. And then we also try our best to educate the public on good fire safety practices. We put on different lectures and different classes a couple times a month. They have us on our website and stuff. So we do our best to reach out to the community and go to those community events to teach people the best and safest ways to practice this. And we also work with property owners on vegetation management. We have a big vegetation office that goes around and does inspections and can teach people as well with our chipper program to be able to clear that vegetation around the valley and around houses and stuff, just to make sure that we have a good buffer zone around those houses to keep them safe. And then during the season, like wildfire season, which we're coming to an end to now, but as we've seen every year, it kind of gets longer and longer. We try to enhance our staffing, so we have, such as today and yesterday, when there's red flag warnings, we try to get more people into work. So if there is a big disaster here or in another part of the county, we can have a quicker response with more units being able to arrive on scene for that. And then we also just try to maintain a reputation and a work environment with our neighboring agencies. We have many in the county here and across the state that we work closely with to try to organize a good response if we do have one of those disasters.
So it seems like you have like different departments, right? Helping in different situations. That is so great.
Yeah.
So now, just to clarify, on the areas that you serve, I know like we're in the Sonoma Valley, right? So there are so many houses or structures that can be on a hillside, right? Or some of them are like so attached, like one next to each other. How do you do, or how can we help to prevent certain fires? The reason why I'm asking you this is because I feel that sometimes many of the incidents or emergencies that happen can be prevented by us. I really do not know the statistics, but just to give you an example, my guess is that some fires can be caused by someone who was smoking and didn't make sure, to, how do you say that, to turn off the cigarette or to...
Yeah, just to put it out.
Yes, exactly. And how can we help? What are some measures that we can use, we as residents, to prevent those fires? And it can either be fires from homes, from the places where we live, or it can be fires, I don't know, somewhere else.
Yeah. So a big thing that we like to focus on is what we call an ember-free zone. That's something that we like to focus on a lot. So if you can kind of picture an area within like 5 feet of your house and think of it kind of as a shield or like a barrier to keep those embers from finding combustible things around your house, such as if it's, say, mulch or some dead plants that you have close to your house, we like to keep that zone free because, of course, it's right next to your house, your building, so you don't want that fire super close to it. We like to use non-combustible materials. We just did a whole remodel at our Station 1 in the city of Sonoma where we kind of try to showcase that. So if you're going to use things like gravel or cement as opposed to mulch or plants, it really helps using those fire-resistive materials so that when there is a fire, if there is a fire close to your house, that we kind of try to keep that away. And then if you think of like an ember that's carried by the wind drifting into that space around the house, around that 5 feet, when we use those non-combustible materials, the ember's just going to burn out right there. There's way less of a chance of it starting a fire next to your house and having it spread to other places.
And those are things that like you teach to community members so they know what to do, or there is a program for it to learn, or there is another program that says, okay, you know what, we're going to give you a grant or something so you can fix those materials in your houses. How does that work?
Yeah, so we have a lot of different resources for the program itself. We have places on our website where you can go that has access to instructions and recommendations that we as a department and then other departments across the state also make and try to encourage those to do. We have different things such as the remodel we just did at our station with the landscaping there. We can go and take a look at it and kind of see what it is that we want, and it can still look really good, but just make it a little bit safer around your house.
Oh, nice. And I also heard, so I am a little bit confused, and maybe some of the people who are watching us, but sometimes I have heard that you're not supposed to have like plants or something that can light up the fire, right? But in other occasions, I have heard that you can use certain type of plants around. So how does that work? Can you explain to us a little bit more about that?
The big thing about that is if it's right next to your house, we encourage you to use more like the succulent type plants that are lower to the ground and have less of a chance of being combustible and catching on fire. That way it still looks good, your yard is still green, and you have some decorations around your house, but it just keeps it a little bit safer and keeps those big plants that have the big chance of drying out and getting dry and catching on fire, keeps those further away from where you live.
Oh, so there are certain types that can actually help. Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that. And I have heard of the non-combustible zone. Is that what you were explaining to us?
Yeah, so our non-combustible zone are kind of like our defensible space zone is what we're talking about there. If you think of it like the first 0 to 5 feet next to your house is really where we want to focus on that non-combustible zone. But then if we kind of move out a little further, we'll go from 5 to say 100 feet. That's the area that's really critical for slowing the fire's rate of spread. I know we have a lot of people here and residents in our valley that live in the hills and kind of more rural areas as opposed to downtown Sonoma. So if we can give a chance to our firefighters when responding to a fire there, just to clear it out a little bit and keep it a little cleaner. Like if we have big shrubbery there, we like to think of it as a buffer zone around the house. So if we want to go like from 5 to 30 feet, just making sure we focus on spacing and pruning. So keep your lawn cut short. Don't let it dry out. Water it regularly so there's not a bunch of dry fire fuel in the way there. And then like pruning back big tree branches and stuff that overhang your house is a big thing, especially if those trees catch fire and they come down, they can come down on the house. So trying to keep that away from the roof and the walls of your house is another big thing that we try to focus on there.
So I see that there are probably like simple steps that we can take, right? And it can actually make a big difference.
Yeah.
What about home hardening?
Yeah, so that's another big thing that we like to talk about, home hardening or structural hardening of your home. It sounds kind of confusing, but we don't want to focus. We're not telling people to change everything about their house, but just try to do what you can with the little things to try to make it a little bit safer, since we do live in a big fire risk area. One key thing that we like to talk about are the vents, or kind of those holes that you see sometimes are at the top or the bottom of the house that have air flowing in and out for like the attic or basement access. One thing we like to do there is just finding different things that we can use there to cover those vents, such as mesh metal, just to cover it up and reduce the risk of ambers from getting in there and being able to start a fire in your house there. Other things we like to think about, the roof is a really vulnerable part of your house. So if you're considering doing a roof remodel or replacing your roof, we suggest using fire-resistant materials like the asphalt shingles that you can use, or some people use tile, something like that, where if an ember lands on it, it's not going to be able to catch anything on fire there. And then one other thing that we like to think about are the gaps in houses. We have a lot of older buildings around here that can have those gaps, such as in doors or windows and stuff like that. Just doing what you can, like in the siding, if you have some, use caulking or some fire-safe foam or specialized products like that that can really just fill those gaps in and reduce the risk again of those embers getting in there.
Wow, that is so amazing. It makes such a difference when we take the steps, right? But I know there is a lot of information that we just covered. So, for example, for someone who, let's say, a resident that is just moving here, or someone who would like to know more about this, where can they find more information or detailed information? You mentioned that you sometimes have certain classes and programs, right? But my guess is that you can also direct someone on a website?
Yeah, so all of the information about this is going to be able to be found on our website. It is sonomavalleyfire.org. It has a ton of information, especially if you go into the fire prevention tab that we have on there. All of the information that I'm giving you and some more resources are also going to be available there, where you'll be able to access them and take a little deeper dive into it and see what else you can do.
That is amazing. And I know that, like, to listen to it is going to be a little bit hard to write down, but we will be more than happy once this video is created and the podcast as well, to write the link so people can access it in a easier way. So now, for everything that we covered, right? And I know you're so young, but probably you have already lived like certain experiences, so you have seen different things or incidents happening, right? So if you could give just one piece of advice to our listeners and just one takeaway from the conversation that we just had, what will be the best advice that you can give them at this time?
Yeah. So I think my advice, and also the big advice coming from our district and our department, is really simple but really important. It's to be prepared, stay informed, and try to create and keep that defensible space around your property. As we've seen time and time again, wildfires can spread really quickly, so preparation is going to be really important for that. Just try to clear all the like dry grass and vegetation and other flammable materials that you have around your house, and try to keep them about 30 feet away. And have an emergency plan in place, and make sure that everyone in your house knows that plan should the day come that you need to use it.
You know what, Ben, I'm so happy that you're mentioning that, because I read a quote that says that when someone survives a disaster, sometimes we think that is luck, right? Oh, this person was so lucky, but it's not about being lucky. It's about being prepared. Yeah. And I also like the fact that you mentioned that it's important to be informed. Sometimes you cannot do it all. In one of the interviews that we had, we just talk about the importance of knowing something and spreading that knowledge to the rest of the community, right? Yeah. There was another occasion when we're talking to someone who was she was on the phones for 911 during some of the emergencies, and she said, you have no idea how many people we were not able to help. Yeah. You know, and sometimes we think that just by calling 911 we will be safe, but we can make your job way easier, right, for all of you who are first responders, just by knowing, having the knowledge, of course, and being prepared, and then spread that knowledge to the rest of the community.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, early action saves lives, and it helps our firefighters focus on the job at hand when it really comes to that time. So, and helping the community. So being prepared is really a shared responsibility, and it's all about working together so that we can keep Sonoma Valley safe.
I think you just said the right thing, working together. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ben. It was such a pleasure to see you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. You are a very young but very smart superhero.
Thank you.